Hello, everybody. This is the module on the importance of the early years. What you will hear here in this module will also be discussed more into deepness in the later modules which are coming. So this gives you an overview of the importance of the early years, what each parent as well as educator should know. So that is general knowledge we put together to give you also a kind of a startup on this training, and it's really important that these key talks are taken serious and taken forward. So there are some important facts on the early years that we need to discuss to be all at one understanding level. First, the early years are understood differently by different people and organizations and also in different countries. Some, when they speak about the early years, they refer to the first 3 years of life, the first important 3 years where the brain development is the fastest. We also will speak about this a little later. Other people, when they speak about the early years, they refer to the period which is before primary school. So from birth till the age of 6, because age of 6 mostly primary school starts all over most of the countries in the world. And so this time, the pre-primary time is referred to as the early years. Then there are also others who speak about the early years from birth till the age 8. There are some curriculums which are building up till the age of 8, and after that you go over into a different style. In this time already the children are at school, so they normally turn into the primary school at the age of 6, but still the first 2 years are somehow called the early years. And then we have another group of people who refer to the early years when they speak about K-12, which is up to the age of 12, from birth till the age of 12. This is also true for TLI Pedagogics, because in that regard, these 12 years are the years where the child is shaped the most by the environment and the surrounding, and this is why we recognize it as one period, but they are also separated in smaller periods, what we will discuss in the TLI Pedagogics training more in depth. But not just TLI Pedagogics, some different educational systems refer to the early years when they speak about K-12. In this training, we'll focus a lot on the first years prior to primary school. So this is why we will mainly speak about these phases of the early years. What are other important facts? The first 5 years of life, of a child's life, are fundamentally important, and this importance has also different phases which we will walk you through. So we have the first 2 to 3 years which are extremely important for the child development, then the first 5 years which are extremely important for the child development, and the first 12 years which are extremely important for the shaping of personality and development in that human being which a person will represent when they are grown up, when they are adults, called adults. So, but in the first 5 years, we have significantly also a shaping of the psychological makeup of a person. So some of the modern psychologists say that the habits that we develop in the first 5 years of life will be the habits on which we build our entire future emotional and social structure and many different other aspects. For example, the early years play a key role in the children's brain development. So there's a great movie that we will put also with this presentation that you should look. It's actually part of a documentation on YouTube where children did not have the chance of developing in a what would you say, developmental sensitive environment. So they lack a lot of the communication, they haven't been nurtured, and what effect that had and what the brain was able after they got into a more normal life at the age of 13, for example, one of the child at the age of 6, what kind of development they still have been able to go on. So that is really a must-see. All of the ones who are in a program, entire program, you have to see it. It's on your manual, on your curriculum to watch it. And we also want to have your feedback on it. For all the others who are just participating in some of the workshops, we'll also put it in your sheets, and you really should see this because you have to understand the importance of the brain development in the early years, which actually, according to today's science, and it might change in the future, it cannot be really replaced. Yeah, you can build upon what's built, and you can become better, and you can work hard, and you can transform your entire life. You can completely transform yourself. But there are some basics that help you a lot when they have been established in childhood, and that's not necessarily knowledge, but there are many different levels. We will discuss all of them throughout this workshop. During those years, these first years, the personality is shaped. So some say till the first 5 years your personality is shaped. Some of the psychologists say it like this. This is why it's so important to focus on these 5 years, because the person that you will be as a grown-up is developed in the first 5 years. In TLI Pedagogics and also in some other contexts and pedagogies, we see it as a period of 12 years, while we also know the importance of the first 5 years to develop the emotional, social personality. The child allows adults and close people to still guide them a lot till they enter into maturation and kind of changing from a child behavior into more an adult behavior, which goes parallelly with adolescence. And so till the age of 12, there is a shaping which happens a lot from the surrounding. It changes on the process, because in the first 5 years, it is mainly the educator, parent, teacher. When a child grows up, especially when they turn about 9, 10, 11, 12, the peer has a greater impact. When they change 12 to 14, 15, 16, the peer is way more important, becomes more important, and the adults and role models are chosen very specifically. The early years play a key role in children's brain development, because the brain is super receptive and there's also a lot of activity in the brain. We look at that a little later. And during those years, the personality is also shaped. So it's really important to understand that the first 12 years of life are crucial for us as adults, as parents, or as teachers, to really guide and tutor and mentor and coach children in their way of how they want to live in this life, what kind of personalities they want to become, because this is also what we can work with them a lot on as soon as their cognition, their cognitive development is far enough, so that they can also understand certain processes. And there we speak about the age of 3.5, where this process really starts a lot. The belief systems and how a child views the world is greatly shaped during the first years of life. This is especially because the child in the first 6 years of life, we know that, and many spoke about it. Jean-Jacques Rousseau spoke about it. You heard about him in the part of history. Pestalozzi spoke about it. Fröbel spoke about it. Jean Piaget spoke about it. All of them you hear in the history. So if you didn't listen to the history part, please go there and listen to the history part. Depending on how in your manual you have which one's first or second, you will understand. Maria Montessori was saying the absorbent mind. So what we know is that in the first 6 years, the cognitive intelligence of the child allows a lot of learning through role modeling and through observation. So if the child observes the parents warring for money without processing this information, if it's right or wrong, the child will take it on as a belief system. This is because the cognitive mind is not yet questioning in the same way. And this is also where education can come in a lot, from different angles. As soon as one person starts questioning a lot, the child starts questioning a lot. But that is normally not so appreciated, neither by teachers nor by parents, because when you are questioned as a parent, you come in contact with your own weaknesses, your own belief systems, how you view the world, and you need to reflect or answer questions which you did not introspect on yet. This is why it is really important for parents and teachers in the first years of life till the age of 12, but especially in the very early years till the age of 4, 5, 6, to be very conscious about what view on the world, what belief systems we share with our children, and sharing happens through normal discussions at the family table. It happens by discussing with another teacher certain situations. It is the question how we answer questions of children, but also what we explain to them, what we describe if we see people on the street, all kind of different situations. What impact do we give to the belief system and the view the child will have on the world? We have lots of impact during these first years of life that we can plant seeds in the minds of children for the future to grow. So this is a seed planting time. Children learn social skills very early in life that determine their social competence. That this is also really important to understand, that the first years of life, it's not so much about knowledge. I have this saying in TLI Pedagogics, what should not be taken literally, but I always say in today's life, with all of the technology, digital equipment and devices we have available, teachers actually don't need to focus too much on knowledge, giving the children knowledge. Actually, the real saying that I normally say is, smart a person can become today without even a teacher or a parent. As long as they have the possibility to get in touch with information, they will become super smart. So we know a lot about many different topics that in earlier times we might have to go to the doctor and ask for that answer on bacteria or on nutrition, or we had to go to a body expert to know about the muscles. Today, there's so much available, and there's good stuff available, but also there's things, of course, which have to be questioned. But the important part is that social skills cannot be trained via digital devices. It's just not possible. Social skills can only be developed by the way how we interact with others and what we get as an observation, what we see from other people, what children, when I say we, I mean the children, what they can observe. How does mommy and daddy handle each other? How do they fight? How do they struggle? How do they quarrel? How do they nurture each other? How do they come together after a fight? How do they solve conflict? And the same is true for teachers, and the same is true for other children the child is observing. The same is true when the child is in the position of having a conflict or being in an environment where there are more than one. How does it act with others? It's only coping what the brain has already understood or seen. So this is an important understanding, that social skill development means the development of social competence needs interaction, and is something that is laid out in its basic structure during the first 5 to 6 years in life. So there are many important facts on the early years, especially also that the early years will affect physical and mental health. So the question, if a child gets positive mental attitudes, forward moving ideas, problem solving ideas, if mistakes are seen as a chance to discover something new, if problems are seen as challenges that we can overcome, the mental health of this child, of this human being, will be very different than if a child is constantly together with people who say, oh, this is dangerous, don't do this, don't lean out too far, be careful, always do what others tell you, never go out of the box, never risk anything. Very different mental health. The same is true for the physical health. If a child is in an environment where the parents and the teachers and the people around in the school, the educational institution provides lots of movement, lots of contact with nature, lots of development, or also especially experiencing the physical body, then the child will be interested in movement, it will be more active, the physical health, nutrition. But if the child is in an environment where one how would we say, if there's one sound, the child makes one sound, it immediately becomes the digital device to be kept quiet. If the babysitter is the smartphone, if it's constantly sitting, if it's kept in small environment, if the parents are in front of the TV not want to go out, and also in some families we have the system with nannies or house helps. They tend normally not to move too much or sit somewhere. The child is observing them constantly sitting. They play in the sandbox, the adults are sitting. They see non-activity. They see bodies which are not moving. The children see it, observe it, and they save it as a remembrance of adulthood in their mind. So what the child sees in childhood is super important on the physical and mental health. So that is really important for us to understand. Early child development sets the foundation for lifelong learning. That's also very, very important. And there we all again have all the two parts. One is lifelong learning means how the child observes learning in the first years, K-12. Now I'm really speaking till the age of 12. How the child, especially from day one, how the child gets in touch with study and learning will determine the fun or the hatred toward learning. So what does this mean? It means that if a child at the age of 4 years is forced to do some working sheets to prepare for school and so on, and it doesn't like it, the child immediately gets this impression that learning is not fun. Learning is only a must. So if I have any chance in life at the age of 18, 20, 21, when I complete my school, I don't want to learn anything anymore. And that's the problem, because life is not the same. If we look back 20 years, if we look back 30 years, life changed so much. You can't imagine. So if a human being is not willing to constantly adapt, change, learn, study, be interested in new things, then it's really hard to live in a world which we have. And even crisis forces us to change something, to learn something out of it, to do something different. So the habits must be fun. The first 12 years of life, all study, all learning must be fun. We have to put it on such a level that the child just can't wait. And I remember many situations when we had these groups, the TLI groups, and we had children coming in the morning, and they came and they were coming in, and first they came to the teacher, to the educator, to the what we call them TLI mentors at that age and coaches, and they say, Marian, you know, I yesterday tried this, you remember, and it didn't work. And then in the evening I talked with my daddy, and he gave me an idea, and I thought about it, and I want to try that immediately. That is how learning should be. This is the enthusiasm young children should have about learning, and we hope that we can implement that. And this is what educators, parents and teachers have to focus when it comes down to learning. It needs to be inspiring, enthusiastic, forward-moving, fun. It needs to engage the whole human being. Then we are on the right track, and this is what TLI Pedagogics is mainly focusing on when it comes to education. Also important is the observation. The children observe adults, teachers and parents, grandparents, people around. How interested are they in learning? Are they constantly learning something new? Are they constantly learning? Think about a family dog. If a child is in a family and mom and dad and the child or children eat for dinner, or maybe there are even other members of the family, if you have a joint family system or you have guests over, and you speak in front of the child about all of that. Remember, yesterday I didn't know how to solve this, so I looked it up, I called friends, I studied on that, I studied on that topic, I studied on that topic, and then I called this person, and at the end I was able to solve it. So this kind of talks in front of the child are super important, because it shows the need, the importance of flexibility, adaptation, learning, study, being on top of it and constantly moving forward. This is how life is. If we don't want to end up at the age of 60 to be in a situation where our body doesn't know and our mind doesn't know anything about the world anymore, and we feel like we cannot live in this world anymore because the world changed so much till the time we stopped learning at the age of 20 or 21, and we feel we don't fit in this world anymore because we can't understand it, then something went completely wrong. And the setup is in the first 5 to 12 years. They will determine our future interest. So can you change that? Yes, of course. So each person can come from a background who the family didn't study, they didn't read, they didn't learn, they are not flexible, they are not adapting. And yes, this child in its growing up process can become such a human being which is interested, which is flexible, which is adapting to new situations. But then there was another role model. Yeah, there was someone the child was admiring, was looking up to. And this person inspired the child to change. So along the way of life, there are coming such people. Or maybe the child comes on a point, and normally this is a very painful situation. It comes to a situation where it has lots of pain. It suffers a lot, emotional, mental, physical, maybe no job, maybe not a possibility to keep track with friends who are moving ahead, whatever. And out of this pain, the person decides to change something. That's also possible. And then slowly, it adapts to it. Yes, change is always possible. While the first years, 5 to 12 years of life, are super important, it does not mean that if nothing happens in these years, or if not so much happens in these years, that this person doesn't have a future. Always there's a possibility to change because we have it at the end of the day in our hands. But if you as a parent or a teacher really focus on education, and as you are in this workshop, I strongly believe you are doing that, then you can provide a surrounding for your child which makes it easy for them to develop ahead after your responsibility in education is over.